Post.
Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. Today we are having a discussion for the Banned Books Club that I do with my friend Nirali. And this, I want to say month, we were supposed to do this in May, but this time we are talking about This One Summer by Jillian Tamaki and Mariko Tamaki, a comic that has been challenged for a few different things: profanity, sexual references, drug use, LGBT characters, and being sexually explicit. I think it's not several of those things.
No. Drug use is a strong word.
I would say they discuss people using drugs.
Yeah.
But even that's a stretch. Saying somebody does crack or compares their sugar addiction to soda to crack is not drug use.
No. That's a kid. That's the thing about this book. This book is about two kids kind of encountering adult things for the first time in a very kid-like way over the summer, and they say sexually explicit things but don't realize how sexual they are, or they encounter the word slut and then she just keeps repeating that word because she's heard it.
Yeah, she's heard it from older kids who are old enough to drive and are teenagers.
Yeah, they're the cool ones that you look up to, even though as adults we're just the losers.
Yeah, and even the kids seem to acknowledge that they're losers. It's just that they're losers who are older than them.
Exactly. And age makes such a difference when you're a kid.
Yeah. So I feel like by this point, anybody who shows up here knows who you are, even though it's on my channel. They should. So I think we could just start by talking about the book. So the premise of the book is that these two kids whose family goes and basically rents cabins on a lake, or maybe it's near the ocean.
I think it's the ocean. It didn't.
Yeah. It feels Pacific Northwest to me.
Yeah.
And every summer, both of their families rent these cottages, and they have known each other since they were little kids and have grown up together. And now we're guessing they're about middle school aged.
Yeah. It could be middle school. It could also be early high school based on how much they know. But the main character, the POV character, is slightly older than the other girl. What are their names again?
Wendy and Rose.
Rose. Yeah, Rose is the main character, and Wendy is her summer friend that she sees every summer at this beach. And yeah, it's interesting because they're largely left alone at the beach and are able to do their own exploring, and it's a safe space for them to talk about kind of taboo things like the teen pregnancy that's happening in front of their eyes and things like that.
Yeah, they're old enough that their parents don't have to watch them or be with them all of the time, but young enough that they don't actually understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's an interesting age, and I feel like it really depends on your upbringing, how much you're aware of at what age, when you're between 12 and 15.
Yeah. I remember early on in the book, the girl Rose, she says that in her health class last year, they had to take a test and show it to their parents to show their parents basically what they knew and were already aware of with sex and with the reproductive process. And the only thing we know that she knows is that her dad laughed because she spelt penis wrong, which is the funniest thing to me. So she might know nothing.
Yeah. But what's interesting about the reasons why it was banned, like being sexually explicit, like it's discussing the idea of sex ed is what's considered sexually explicit.
Yeah. It's clear that somebody had sex in this book because they're one of the kids that these two middle schoolers have been spying on basically gets pregnant. But we don't see that.
No.
We just know that it happens and infer that it happens based on these circumstances around it.
Yeah. And also the parents have sex or have had sex because they were trying for a baby for a very long time, and then her mom had a miscarriage.
Yeah, which it's odd. They never actually say until the last couple of pages that it was a miscarriage. So her parents are going through all of this trauma, and this kid doesn't really understand what's happening. She knows that her parents were trying to have a baby, and then last year they stopped trying. And that there's been a lot of tension since then.
Yeah. And she feels her mother rejecting her a little bit the entire book because her mother is going through a lot of pain herself, and Rose doesn't understand why her mom is, not willing to do the fun beach activities that they had planned and that they do every year, like not interested in it at all.
Yeah. And even then at the beginning of the book, before I knew about Liz's character stuff, I did see the mom unpacking everything and setting up the kitchen, and the dad was like, hey, let's go have some fun, relax, can do this later. And what I saw is this woman is setting up her entire house for her family.
Yeah, it's very fun dad, strict mom dynamic of the mom has to be the parent for both the father and the kid.
Yeah, and I got to that, and I was like, this just seems like a normal beginning of vacation. They're going to be there for probably at least a month if they are renting the cottage every summer, and they have this deep relationships with people. So even though I saw that there was some tension, I was like, this is normal.
Yeah,
this is what families do all of the time. I don't think she's not a fun mom. I think she's just being a parent.
Yeah, but then slowly you see that Rose is being really affected by her mother not doing what's expected of her, what has, kids love routine, and it's a routine to come there every summer, it's a routine to have a lot of fun together as a family, and that's not happening for some reason, and Rose doesn't know that it's because of a miscarriage.
Yeah, she just knows that she said they stopped trying because her mom's body decided it didn't want a baby. So she doesn't even know that there was ever a pregnancy. I think that's really tough. And I also think she's dealing with some ideas around feeling rejected by her parents because they wanted a new kid. And her friend Wendy was adopted, and she's they talk about it pretty openly, that fact that Wendy's adopted, and that Wendy's mom, their dad does not come to the beach, it seems, with them.
Yeah,
he's at work in Hawaii this month, and I don't think they're together. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, which is fine.
It's fine. But they asked, she said, my mom said I'm enough for her. They don't want to adopt anybody else, and they don't want to try to have a kid naturally because I'm enough.
Yeah. So then I feel like that increases the level of rejection Rose feels, because oh, am I not enough for my parents, that they felt like they needed to have this other baby, and then got extremely depressed when the baby didn't happen.
Yeah. I think she is going through it, internalizing all of these things based on facts she doesn't know. And because nobody is willing to talk to her, she's just taking it out on herself.
Which I feel like the crux of this book is trying to ask and trying to answer the question of like, how much do you tell kids? And at the end, the mom's sister comes to the beach house and is like, or no, it's Wendy's grandma that's like, you can tell your child about this, like kids will understand.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay that you're sad. It's okay that, you know, you're having a feeling, but also if you communicate that feeling with your kid will also understand. It's not something to protect your kid from. It's actually hurting your kid to not talk about it.
Yeah. And you can see that, like, the mom feels like she's been a bad mom on this trip.
Yeah.
And is carrying like a lot of trauma with her from having the miscarriage at last summer at the same beach at the same house.
Yeah.
But it's tough because this kid doesn't know why things have changed. And the mom feels withdrawn and depressed and is dealing with trauma and just feels like she's doing a bad job being a mom. And I don't want to say she's being a bad mom.
No.
By not communicating, she is making the situation worse.
Yeah, which I feel like it's very difficult to call people bad parents unless they're like abusive. And this isn't an abusive mom. This is a mom that has become distant due to a huge amount of trauma that's happened and is unable to talk about it until the very end of the book.
Yeah. And still not with her kid.
No, not with her kid.
The kid over here. And that's not, like, I don't think she's doing a bad job. I think she's just having a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it's also hard because it seems like the dad, who also wanted a kid, is just trying to, like, push through everything and make things fun and try to go back to the way things were.
Yeah.
Even though it can't ever be that way again.
Yeah. And then when it doesn't work, the dad kind of gives up and just leaves the beach house and goes back home and goes back to work. And we don't really see him again in the book. Does he come back at the end?
He does come back. He does come back and spends like the end of the summer with them. Mm-hmm. But it's clear that there are real problems in the marriage.
Yeah.
Because they're both just dealing with the trauma differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting to see it through the eyes of a kid who just doesn't understand what's happening.
I feel like I remember a lot of times not understanding what was happening when I was a kid and seeing people and knowing the adults in my life weren't going to explain things to me.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I'm a very annoying adult now, but like, that's on them. I at least had the internet to Google the things I didn't understand. These kids have nothing.
These kids have no internet, no phones, nothing.
They have a laptop and they use it to rent DVDs, which tells me there's no YouTube.
No, this is the summers of our childhood when computers weren't in our pockets. This is going to the library, picking up a DVD to play on the TV at home, and then going to return it. This honestly, like, because they constantly go to the video store to get more horror movies and stuff, it reminds me of my summers when literally what we would do is go to the library every day to get a new movie and new books and return them.
Yeah. It also really strikes me how small this community is, because there are only 2 stores. There's this one that rents DVDs and sells food and candy, and the kids like get stuff from there. And then there's a pizza place that's open 2 nights a week, and the pizza is bad. They never get the pizza. But we all know that it's bad. That's a very important detail to me.
Everyone has tried it once. It's not good.
It's pizza.
It's probably one of those things where like every summer, like they get bored of having home food and they're like, you know what? Maybe it got better. Maybe it's not as bad as we remember. And then
it's just big enough locally that even though it's a bad pizza, there's no other pizza, so it can survive.
Yeah. 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 As an East Coast, New York, New Jersey person, I have opinions about pizza, and I'm sure I wouldn't like this pizza.
I currently live in a town with multiple pizza places within walking distance. And sure, some of them are chains. There's a Pizza Hut, there's a Papa John's, but some of them are local places of varying quality. And I know which ones I like.
Yep.
Couldn't survive with just one pizza place.
No, that's... Sometimes you want a different kind of pizza.
Right?
What do you do?
Like, you want to support the local small businesses, but then they do this to you.
Yeah, they betray you. They betray your trust.
Yeah.
But should we talk about kind of it's interesting that both kind of major events that happen in this book have to do with pregnancy, because the other major event that happens in this book is that the teens that the two girls are stalking, so Rose seems to have a crush or an obsession with the guy at the video store who rents out the DVDs to them. And
shouldn't. I'm just gonna say, and shouldn't.
The book does a really good job of emphasizing that he is a douchebag.
Oh yeah.
Who does not deserve any.
These kids are checking out horror movies that like say that you need to be like, there are rated movies, and these kids are obviously not old enough to be getting them.
Yeah, but like he does you're cool though, right? Like you won't tell anyone. And they're like, yeah, we're cool. And then they watch horror movies and then stay up all night afraid because they're horror movies.
But they want to seem cool to these older guys.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep it.
Yeah, it's just so realistic. It's so true to life of like the thing you want most when you're a kid is the thing that is just out of reach, and that is R-rated movies.
I was not at all interested in them.
Yeah, it's like I remember when Mean Girls came out, we were in like the 3rd grade and it was everywhere and it was just not appropriate yet.
No, it was not. But I did watch it with my older sisters, and I did love it.
Same. So it's like the thing of we both had older siblings, so it was like very easy for us to access those things. But yeah, like
they would watch it and let us sit in the room.
Exactly.
These two, they're both only children. They have nobody to share these experiences with.
Exactly. So it's just out of reach for them, and they don't have anyone to kind of guide them into those things. But yeah, so this guy who is renting out videos, so Rose has a crush on him, or like a minor obsession with him. His girlfriend is pregnant, and that is the talk of the teens in that community. That's the talk of their friends. And we learn all about them through Rose and Wendy stalking them.
Because if she doesn't start out pregnant, like halfway through the book, something happens and they infer that.
Yeah. And it is very, it's very clear that the guy wants nothing to do with this pregnancy. And the girl doesn't know what to do because the guy isn't answering his phone or, communicating in any way to her anymore. So she's alone. She's pregnant and doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. And throughout this whole thing, we see this guy. His name's Duncan. The kids call him the Dud, which, sure, yeah, accurate. His friends are like trying to pressure him to call this girl back.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is like, yeah, no, it was definitely you who impregnated her. And he keeps saying, that might not be true. It might not be mine. She hasn't gone to the doctors yet. So maybe she's not even pregnant. Like this.
He's in a state of denial. And what's interesting is because Rose has a crush on him, she doesn't want the baby to be his and like wants to tell him that this girl cheated without any evidence and wants to like get his attention. And it in like such a childlike way, but it's just interesting.
Her evidence that she's cheating is that after she's a tour guide at a museum and some teenagers clearly making fun of her ask about birth control methods of Native Americans as she was giving the tour. And she like finishes the tour and then privately cries, and a different teenager goes to hug and comfort her and says he'll call back. Clearly nothing is happening there. But this kid is convinced.
Yeah. This kid is convinced that because it's like any affection between two, like a girl and a boy is like romance for kids. Which again, where are the queer themes in this book? There are underlying queer themes. I think they're very subtle, but it's like, why was this book banned for queerness?
Yeah, no. Like the other girl, Wendy, had just got back, went to like a dance camp and says that there were lesbians there. And it was like a family camp. So I think like some of the adults were lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems her mom is very like much so a hippie as well. I'm like, yeah, that's all normal.
Mm-hmm.
She's a crunch mom who wants to talk to her kids and her kids' friends about their feelings. And like wants her kid to just express themselves.
This mom is not Asian.
No. But her kid might be, because her kid's adopted.
Yeah.
I think the kid might be. But like, it's just a kid. And it's also, Wendy's really interesting because it seems like she really wants to grow up fast.
Yeah.
Like she is excited for puberty. A mistake in my opinion, but she's excited for it. Like she seems very much at the crossroads, but she is a child, but she's excited to like find out how big her boobs are going to be and to like take hip hop classes next year. But and like watch these scary movies, but she still is very much so wants to be a kid.
Yeah. I mean, she gets high off sugar and like is just constantly drinking soda and eating candy and things. And it's just like, yeah, it's being a kid, but being really into the idea of being an adult.
Not even, she's really into the idea of being a teenager.
Being a teenager, like being so into being a teenager in a way that only a kid can be excited about.
Yeah. And also, to me, it felt like she was trying to be older because her friend Rose is a year and a half older.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I saw Wendy try really hard to be more mature in order to hang on to a friendship that she felt was slipping away.
Yeah.
But also, she knows about lesbians existing, so, like, I guess that's a mature theme. Sure.
But it's like done in such a, like, did you know lesbians exist? I saw some lesbians, like, and it's just like,
we went to a camp with my mom, and some of the kids had 2 moms.
Lesbians exist. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, which is like really interesting. I'll also say that one thing I found really interesting about her is that in the beginning of the book, the two kids hear the teenagers use the word sluts to refer to one of their friends. To each other in what I assume is like a teasing manner.
It seemed like playful banter. It seemed like the guy who called the girl a slut was her boyfriend. Still not okay.
Yeah,
but
yeah. It was wrong, but also was not malicious.
When you're friends with people, yeah, sometimes things like that happen.
Yeah. And then the two kids repeat it, and then a parent catches them and is like, what are you saying? Who are you saying that about? And what's really interesting is Rose throughout the entire book keeps repeating and using the language until Wendy tells her to stop towards the end of the book and says, you know what? This was sexist. This is not right.
Yeah.
And that's because it became about a serious discussion because somebody got pregnant. Like
it stopped being a joke to use the word just because it was a taboo word. It suddenly had meaning.
Yeah. And it had meaning because Wendy was recognizing that there was a double standard at play. And Rose was okay with there being a double standard and only blaming one person for being pregnant. When it was clear, because of the lead up before that this was a consensual relationship between two probably heterosexual teenagers.
Yeah. There's so much heterosexuality in this book.
Right. So when we look at what we're selecting and we look at the list of banned books, why they've been banned or challenged, just to get an idea of the theme. And the first thing it said was LGBTQ plus content. And I thought, you know what? It's by Asian authors. It's May. We're going to go into June. It's a 2 whole months of celebration for us.
Yeah.
No gay stuff.
It's got 2 girls on the cover jumping into water. That seems gay. If you're telling me it has queer themes, it doesn't automatically mean gay, as we know. They're friends. Although I have a feeling that Wendy is gonna grow into being something fruity.
She's something. She might be something. But it's like this is the very literal 2 kids jumping into a lake and summer, or the ocean at summer, and maybe 2 kids jumping into adulthood before they're ready. Yep. But it's not gay.
No.
That's sure. So that's, I don't know. I just feel like that's upsetting to me because I feel like the book banners lied to me.
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't ban books. We shouldn't challenge books. But I feel like if you're going to do it, and if people are going to make the absolutely insane argument that this works as publicity, which it doesn't, at least give me like accurate footnotes on what's going on and what's in there.
Because I was like, it said profanity, it said sexual things, and it's like, the profanity is that they like say slut over and over again when they're learning the word, and then learn why it's a bad word and stop using it.
Yeah. Which, like, I don't know. I feel like one day my little brother came home and said, hey, he was like in 1st or 2nd grade. Hey, what's a hoe? I heard an older kid use this on the playground. That is a normal thing for kids to do. And then my mom said, it's a kind of gardening tool. And he said, I don't think that's how they were using it. So then he just started using it more until someone would tell him what it actually meant in the context. Like, for a whole 2 days before my mom finally broke. And
oh, what a kid.
Once again, like, he was 7, I was maybe 12, so I knew what it meant. And my mom said, it's a gardening tool. very firmly. And I was like, I guess we're not telling him then?
Yeah. It's really like kids are so inquisitive and kids want to know everything about the world because there's so much that's a mystery to them. And like, how much are you protecting them and how much are you like not providing them with adequate information for them to survive in the world is the question. And with your brother, it's more like, how much do you want to deal with him saying this word?
Yeah, but, like, that was
but also it's like telling him the real meaning of the word is protecting him because he won't say it in public if he learns the real if he learns the meaning that those kids were using it as.
Yeah, because once he learned it was like an insult that was particularly mean to girls, he stopped because he doesn't want to be like he didn't want to be a mean kid, and he didn't want to like bully girls. He was like, why would I ever talk to girls in the first place? They have cooties. Like, this doesn't make any sense. I was like, you're right, it doesn't. But so much could have been avoided.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I think that's one of the nice things about this book is that the book is about these two kids who are trying to deal with these, like, it's a coming of age story of these two kids trying to deal with like these more mature ideas without context for them. And we kind of see them fumbling their way through everything. And the idea is that other people have complicated lives and reasons why they don't tell you things and reasons why they like want you to know or not know things and are dealing with their own trauma. And that's okay. And then it was banned as to make things more inaccessible for kids to learn about this and put things into a more shadowy area and a more gray area to stop kids from learning about these adult themes that they're already learning about from existing in the world and having eyes and ears and paying attention.
Yeah.
Kids pay attention all the time. It's so annoying.
Yeah. It's interesting that like how much this book reflects the reality of what the far right wants out of these book bans, because there is very little in this book that I would feel is inappropriate for a 13-year-old to read.
Yeah, I think this like really reflects a lot of my experiences and my friends' experiences as like 13-year-olds who were like being raised as girls. We wanted to do more grown-up stuff than we should have. We talked about puberty a lot. Like a lot. Once again, a mistake. We shouldn't have been looking forward to it. No, should not have wanted that at all.
No.
And like, you want to impress the older kids, and the way you do it is a little bit dumb.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually impress them.
No. They're looking at you as, oh, this kid. And you're like, oh, they think I'm so cool. Right. It would be, he would think I'm cool if I say that his girlfriend cheated on him. He's going to give me attention that way.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. I think the guys who run the store, both a little bit gross, but like they weren't going to befriend middle schoolers.
No.
They weren't that gross. They were like, yes, you're the kid who likes Twizzlers and horror movies.
I'll let you rent out the horror movies. They're not going to like permanently damage you, but like they're not creeps in that way. Not bad guys. Yeah.
And like, because that's a normal thing that like 13-year-old girls go through. They have crushes on like these part-time teenage workers at stores. They think they're cute, and then they move on with their lives.
Yeah.
Because in a good scenario, these men do nothing about that because it's just some little kid with a crush.
Yeah, like these guys were absolutely ignoring these children and dealing with their own crap the entire book.
Yeah. They didn't even learn these children's names.
No.
At any point. They do not care.
No. Which is how it should be.
Yeah, like that's normal. It kind of reminded me of the Disney movie Turning Red, that she has a crush on a boy who works at a like convenience store.
Yeah.
Draws a picture. Her mom gets really mad, assuming the worst of the boy who runs it, and he's like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know because that's what happens all of the time, and that's what happened here. These teenagers have their own lives.
It's baby's first parasocial relationship.
Like, he didn't even learn her name.
No.
I don't know what she's latching on to. At least over the year she had a crush on her swim teacher. He at least knew her name.
Yeah. Oh, Matt says, yeah, people can easily make it more dramatic than it is. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Matt. Yeah. Like, it's just a lot.
Yeah.
I think I really like that about these middle schoolers is that the kids in this book always went to the most extreme option whenever given a chance. And there was never a reason to. Like, they find like this somewhat abandoned like campsite with, just like coolers, which is probably a fire pit at some point, and like some fold-up chairs that they just leave there. And like Rose picks up like this flip-flop, and then Wendy says, you're gonna get herpes. And Rose says, that's not how you get herpes. And like, very accurate, but they went to the most extreme thing first, like the worst thing that could happen to you at any point. And it was completely ungrounded from reality.
Oh, absolutely. But it's like you hear of a gruesome thing as a kid, or like, hear the word herpes and you know that it's bad, and you know that you're just like, you're gonna get herpes,
I'm just saying, Rose went through health class. Maybe Wendy hasn't yet. It's a 1.5 year difference. That's like
exactly.
That's a big deal.
Also, they're in different school systems.
Yeah, it appears so, because they just both refer to when we go back to the city, and we don't know what city it is, but like, it seems clear that it's very different. I think Wendy might go to private school.
Yeah.
And my guess is Rose probably goes to public school.
And
it's weird. It's weird and it's crunchy this whole time.
Yeah.
But like, it also strikes me that even though they live in the same city, they do not hang out outside of this summer.
No. Which, yeah, it's kind of that. Like, I didn't go to like summer vacation at a beach every year or anything, but like, I had two very distinct groups of friends. I had school people and I had my Indian community people, and those two paths did not mix. And there was a kid in my grade, in my school, one of my best friends outside of school. We did not talk in school. Like,
no, why would you? That's not where you're friends.
No. It was very black and white for that, which is like, he's still one of my best friends, but it's just like, that is absolutely the experience of being a kid for some reason.
Yeah. Like, people need the right context.
And
like, for me, that was like, my mom and my dad lived in different states. I had two separate groups of friends who I knew would never mix.
Yeah.
And I was right this entire time. Just the whole time. And I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
We never ran into each other. They didn't know I was two different versions of people. This has been pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's gone well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing I did kind of want to talk about, which we mentioned that the pregnant teen in the novel worked at a museum, and the place they go is called Owago Beach, and we like can pretty safely assume that that's the Native American name for the lake or the area. And the museum that they go to is a Native American museum, and it's like there is indigenous culture that exists pretty clearly in the book, and I think you can kind of assume that the pregnant girl is also Native American. Maybe not, but like because of the pointed questions those other teens ask her about Native American contraception, like I think it's somewhat safe to assume, and it's interesting to see like these macroaggressions happening in this book with like and just like these kids having witnessed that and like it being normalized as a kid because they don't comment on it, they don't really think about it beyond this is the girl that like might have cheated on this guy that I'm into. It's just like interesting when it's like to me pretty like pointedly racist.
Yeah. And I think that what's interesting is their parents take them to this like indigenous museum every summer.
Yeah.
Probably because they want their kids to not be racist. Throwing it out there as I do. And it's not working.
Yeah, it's also probably like the one thing to do in the town.
Right, it's air conditioned.
Yeah.
Like these kids are like, we've already done this. We have seen this film they play every summer. We're kind of over it.
But it's hot.
But it's hot. And they're like, they'll do it. They'll go. They'll like do the thing with their parents. And
yeah, the grandma who brings them is more excited about all the activities than they are.
Yeah. Like soap making and candle making sounds fun.
I want to do that.
That sounds like a good day.
Yeah.
But these kids just don't care anymore because they're like used to it. But like they clearly, even though they're like, I've seen the exhibits and watched the movie, they're not really connecting it to what's going on around them, even though it feels really obvious to us as readers.
Yeah. And it's just interesting because it is like they are at like this museum / tourist attraction where the tour guide who is Native American is still like separate from the tourist. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a social dynamic happening there that's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I think it's just kind of how it goes that these kids both want to like desperately be a part of this town. Or at least Rose wants to be a part of this town, wants the teenagers there to like her, wants to like be invited to hang out and to like their parties and stuff. But she doesn't want to be a part of like the trauma or like part of understanding like the local cultures. That's too much for her.
Yeah. She just really wants to be cool.
Yeah.
And I understand that impulse when you're like 13 or 14 years old.
Yeah. She wants all the fun things.
She wants to be validated, and she wants to, especially because she feels like she's being rejected by her parents and by her family, even though she's not, her parents are just going through other things and are distracted. Like, it's just, she really wants to feel acceptance somewhere beyond her best friend who she's known forever, because that's a given. You're going to be accepted by her. But yeah, it's just interesting.
I also thought it was interesting. So we mentioned the grandma like came up and also went to the museum with them. Wendy's grandma. I thought it was really interesting to see how other family members come up for weekends or for like maybe a week to spend time at the camp where they are summering. I think part of that's probably a class thing. Like, we do not know what these parents do for work.
Whatever it is, it's money.
Yeah. Like, we know Wendy's mom owns a store. I think it's like this vegan, like,
it's some crunchy
place. It's crunchy as heck. And owns it with a couple of other women.
That doesn't make money. That's not the thing that makes them money.
And it also said that, like, Wendy's, like, grandma helps pay for it every year. So, like, who knows? And we know her dad's working in Hawaii this summer. So, like, they obviously make some amount of money. And we don't know what Rose's parents do. But at all.
Her dad claims to leave and go back home from the beach for work, even though it's like quite clearly because he's fighting with his wife and doesn't want to fight with his wife.
Yeah. And like, also, I think I don't think it's unlikely that his wife asked him to leave.
Yeah.
Because the conversation of him telling his daughter that he's like, he just has to go back to the city for work for like a week or two and he'll be back. That happens without the mom being present.
Yeah.
And I think it's possible that she asked him to leave. But I don't know that. And Rose doesn't know that. She knows one of her parents are leaving.
Yeah.
And also, in her opinion, the wrong parent is leaving.
Yeah, because she was having fun with her dad, whereas her mom was just refusing to leave the house.
Yeah. I find it really interesting because the miscarriage, we learn at the end of the book, happens in the water, in the ocean. And she does not want to go to the beach. The only time we see her at the beach is when her sister visits. And her brother-in-law, Rose's uncle, tries to pull her in the water against her will for a swim after she repeatedly says no.
Yeah.
And that's and they were visiting for her birthday.
Yeah. Which I have had the familial pressure of like, oh, come on, just come in the water. It's not that cold. Come on, you know. But that is very different than like trying to drag someone in the water.
Yeah. Especially and then like getting a grown adult who said no multiple times.
Exactly. And then like getting mad that like she doesn't want to come in the water.
And blaming her for ruining the fun. You were still welcome to go in the water.
Yeah. Yeah. No one was stopping you from having a good time. If someone else is stopping you from having a good time by simply not participating in the good time, you don't know how to have a good time. Yeah.
It's clear that her aunt and uncle get into a fight about it, but it zooms out really far in the book. And I really like that feeling of like, I like that the adults in this book still have some measure of privacy.
Yeah.
Because we do not get context for a lot of things because of the way that it's drawn. We zoom out, we see like speech bubbles, but we can't read what's in them. And everything's like a little bit blurry at times because of that. And I like that because that is what it feels like when you don't understand what's going on when you're a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like no one will tell you anything. You're not privy to the adult conversations happening, and then you like wake up the next morning and something's different. Yeah. And that happens a lot to Rose, and because Rose is growing up a little bit, she's feeling it very keenly that she is being left out of things and not being given context.
Yeah. She feels I thought throughout the whole book she just seemed lonely.
Yeah.
And like that's really hard to deal with. And I don't know. I think even though she was kind of like, it seemed like she was maybe jealous that her parents wanted a new kid and that maybe she wasn't enough, But I think she also wanted a sibling just so she wouldn't be alone in this.
Yeah, it seems like the "was I not enough" conversation happened because her friend was like, my mom said I was enough for her. And then that train of thought started, but it doesn't seem like she was anti having a sibling before that.
Yeah. I think she was probably neutral about it.
Yeah.
Honestly. Because whether or not you have any siblings is unfortunately not up to you most of the time. And that's okay.
As I was the youngest child and I did constantly tell my mom, she would jokingly be like, do you want me to have another kid? And I was like, no. And she didn't.
See, I said that and mine still did so many times. So many times. Like, I have like 9 siblings. It's a lot. I don't know why they kept doing that. I don't know why. I would have told them to stop. And granted, like, because like both of my parents already had at least a child when they got together, like got married. My dad had a first wife. My mom already had a kid, and then they had like my big sister and me. But then they just kept going again. They could have stopped before me. It would have been fine. It would have been fine. But yeah, you don't actually get control over that. That's usually an adult's decision and has nothing to do with you.
No. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot that is out of Rose's control. So then it's like, I think she sees an opportunity with this guy to kind of be less lonely and have more control or something. And like, it becomes her fixation. To kind of get this pregnant girl out of the picture so she can have her chance. But I think we should talk about the way the book ends, because I feel like that's such a departure from kind of the like soft rhythm of the book, that it kind of like gently enters you into this world of this month at the beach house. And it feels very like summery, very just, everything's slow. These kids are trying to deal with everything. And then there is and then the girl who is pregnant in the book is seen in the water and has almost drowned, and then Rose's mom saves her.
Yeah, Rose, she hears like the teenagers calling for their friend into the ocean. None of them can see her. They don't have like flashlights or anything. But Rose goes down to like wash her hands off of the s'mores off of her hands, sees her, and immediately yells, "Mom!" And that's the first time her mom enters the water after her miscarriage there, and that's very dramatic. And it's also stays unclear whether or not Jenny, the pregnant girl, is trying to drown herself on purpose or not.
Yeah, we don't know how she got in the water, but she ended up in the hospital. It's told like third hand that she's okay, because like Rose hears other people talking about it. Or no, someone talks to Rose and tells her to thank her mom for saving Jenny.
Yeah, a girl who is younger than Rose, maybe Jenny's younger sister, rides up on a bike. This kid has braces. She's small and says, "Hey, that was your mom. Tell her like she's okay now."
Yeah. Which is great news to end the book on, but it's like the whole time Rose is trying to come up with this way to get Jenny out of the way, but then it's Rose's actions that end up saving her. And I think she never envisioned Jenny as a real person until that moment. And then was like, oh no, this is a real girl who like was going through a lot and needed help.
And was not just like a side character in my adventures.
Yeah.
that's a really hard lesson to learn as a kid. And I'm glad I did it less dramatically.
Yeah.
Personally. But like, all of this happens, and Mom, you know, I think what was really special is that I think by saving this girl's life, like, it was probably also healing for the mom a little bit, in that moment, to like help her get over her trauma and probably help like heal the family through all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they just go home.
Yeah. And that's the end of the summer.
Yeah. Because there is no more summer. It's over, and that's the only time they spend here. Everything's fine.
Yeah, and it's implied that they'll go next summer and see each other again and, you know, be a little more grown up and a little different, and have to like, you know, Wendy and Rose will have to like figure out their dynamic again.
Yeah. But it seems like in a way, like, it's easy for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even as they like annoy each other or like quibble or fight, like that's your best friend. That's your summer friend. You have
also, like,
that.
the only other person who will hang out with you.
Possibly the only other person your age.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, and it all comes back to it, and it's gonna be okay because we'll see each other next summer. And like, they'll just pick up right where they left off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also interesting because things keep happening around Rose the entire book, and then the thing is in front of her at the very end of the book. And that's kind of the growing up moment of like, she's calling for her mom, and that's like not, you know, she's freaking out and calling for her mom, but she's still doing something, and it's right in front of her. It's not around her. So
yeah. It's not like a conversation that she's listening in on or spying on.
Mm-mm.
And it's one of the times that we really see her making a choice.
Yeah.
Also, if you see someone drowning, calling an adult is probably the right thing to do.
Oh yeah. So
like, right choice all around. A+.
But also, like, maybe she's a swimmer. She had swim lessons. Maybe get some lifeguard coaching.
Yeah, what a profession to look into. Although I would have to guess that she's probably not strong enough to carry.
No.
But a grown up, ooh, love that.
Mm-hmm.
Good for her.
Yeah, it's also like she still realizes that she's not a grown up yet, and she does have to call her mom, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that for her. I hope she gets to do that her whole life.
Yeah, and that her mom will come if she calls. Like, she's not just the bad mom that Rose has kind of cast her as this summer, because her mom is being distant and not being fun.
Yeah, I mean, Rose feels like lonely, but it's good that she knows that she can.
Mm-hmm.
That if she needs her adults, like, they will come to her.
Mm-hmm.
And they will get her, and they will help.
Yeah. So I think we should start wrapping up. Almost noon. It's a minute to noon. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
You know, not really.
Facing asking for help.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's really nice. I think what I want to say is I want to look. So Mariko Tamaki, one of the authors, made a statement after their books were challenged or removed from libraries. I just want to read that. Mariko said, "There are people who are uncomfortable with any discussion of sexuality, who see this as inappropriate, maybe for any age of young reader. But really what expelling these books does is erase queer experiences and queer lives."
Mariko Tamaki is queer. So
yes.
That is why she is saying that, and pretty much all of her other books have also been challenged that are more about queerness than this book happens to be.
Yeah. And this book, it started getting challenged around 2016, and it made the top 10 list of most banned books in 2018. And it was published in 2014. So this was really, I mean, book banning has been pretty consistent, but this was banned and challenged at a time when it was beginning to rise, when the strategy of
2016 was a time.
It was the beginning of this big astroturfing campaign where people tried very explicitly to ban books. It was kind of, I think, more the beginning of it when we started to see an uptick in it. And it's an interesting choice to challenge this, especially for what they were challenging it for, which once again, I think not really. It feels like they didn't read the book.
Yeah, they didn't read the book, because if they read this book and thought it needed to be banned, they also need to ban like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Yeah.
Which is very similar in themes, but just not by a queer writer. A queer Asian Jewish writer.
Yeah. I will give them profanity. There's definitely that in the book.
Yeah.
But like drug use, no. Comparing drinking soda to drug use is not drug use.
No.
So like it feels like the people banning this book also went to the most extreme lengths, as these children did.
Yeah.
But also I think like this is probably a good book for especially like middle grade readers, and it's intended to be a young adult book. It's a young adult graphic novel with these beautiful illustrations.
Yeah, it's
and I just think that it's really important to see other kids who don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I think it's good. And I think largely that it shouldn't have been banned at all. And in some places where it did get banned, because it was listed for books 12 through 18, they I think the comic book legal defense book, the comic book legal defense fund challenged the removal of books. And now kids in one library can get it with parental permission if they're in 10th grade and up.
I hate that so much. When you're in 10th grade, you're 15, 16. The last thing is your parents to be like scanning every book you checked out from the library to read.
No, like first of all, my parents didn't care. But also, like, had my parents not been like neglectful but actively abusive in what information I was allowed to access, that would have been dangerous for me. That was dangerous for kids.
Yeah. Like the crux of what the astroturfing campaign is about is children not having rights. Like, it is about the right of the parent. It is not about the right of the child to be an individual.
And only some parents.
Yeah. Only our parents would not count because our parents are not, wasps. Like, it's just children aren't supposed to have rights, and what this book does is show kids who have parents who are decent parents but who also have some freedom to do kind of whatever they want and to like ride their bike to the beach or go to the video store by themselves. It's just not absolutely obedient children.
And they're not even doing they're not really doing anything that bad.
Yeah, it's like
they're renting movies that are too young to rent. That's the worst thing they do in this whole
Rose tries to get an older boy's attention and is kind of mean about the teenage girl.
But like they would have learned how to do that in school anyways.
Yeah.
Kids know how to be mean. They're very good at being mean, actually. But like, it's a problem. And there's why ban a book about the consequences of withholding information? Seems a bit much.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I do think I want to just mention some good news regarding book bans, which is that Illinois became the first state to outlaw book bans, which is, I'm like very curious about, the legal stuff behind the implications behind that. But the Illinois Secretary of State said, we're not saying every book should be in every single library. What the law does is it says, let's trust our experience and education of our librarians to decide what books should be in circulation. Because every single library that you ever go to is highly curated. You are not just getting full access to every book that's ever been published.
No.
You don't even get that on Amazon.com when you're shopping. That experience is curated and policed in ways that are separate from the book bans, but somewhat relevant. But yeah, like librarians go to school for this. They get very nice degrees and know what they're doing, and we should trust them.
Yeah, and also there are ways to request books. If like you have something flying under the radar, there's a new release you want to check out. Every library has a way to request books, and then their library has to decide: do they have the funding for this? Do they have the space for this? Is it likely that it will get circulated after you buy it? And like that's important, and that takes really knowing your library and really knowing the community that you're curating for.
Speaking of funding, though, currently in my lovely city of New York, Eric Adams is threatening to cut the library budget to the point where the massive New York public library system would have to reduce its hours and close early and close more. And that is very, very dangerous for the well-being of the community because librarians do much more than provide a house for books that you can read. So if you can support the New York Public Library on social media, NYPL.org has a campaign front and center on their website. Support your library, support librarians, because while New York is facing budget cuts with libraries, a lot of libraries are facing things a little more physically dangerous, more viscerally dangerous than budget cuts, although both of them aim to destroy the public service of libraries.
Yeah. We need libraries are important safe spaces where everybody is welcome, where you can spend time without buying anything, that have programming from everything from ESL classes, job search, youth and homeless programming, things for kids to do that are free over the summer when parents are struggling to find childcare.
Did you read that article the other day about parents who in January are like contacting summer camps to be like, what is your summer camp thing? When can I sign up? Can I be on the waiting list? How much does it cost? Oh, it costs $5,000. Fine, I'll pay it because I need childcare. It's that world is wild.
Like it's expensive, and if you don't work from home, like if you don't have somebody that can stay home with your kids, you're forced into paying like thousands of dollars for the summer, or even for like a day camp, a few $100s for a week to get your kids out of the house for part of the day.
So you can make the money to feed them.
And like also the childcare workers aren't being paid very much.
No. Where is all this money going? It's very
like
anyway, libraries exist outside of capitalism, which is beautiful.
Like we need these public services, and we have to fight for them.
Also, school is almost out. I think in my area, it's like the last week of school, and school is out for a lot of places. But when school is back in session, go to your school board meetings, pay attention to school board elections, all that jazz. Very important for book bans, in addition to, reproductive health education and other things of that nature. Yeah. Make sure you're registered to vote.
Go ahead.
Also, happy Pride.
Gay. I don't know. I don't know. It's a nice month to celebrate, and it's a nice month to rest. Find out what's happening locally in your area, from school board elections to cities deciding to cut budgets to states like Illinois banning book bans, and possibly New Jersey too soon.
Phil Murphy's great. The governor of New Jersey is just like, he made the state of New Jersey a safe space for trans people to come to. Like, in writing, he said New Jersey is a safe space for trans people to come to if they are fleeing a state with restrictive laws.
Yeah, accepting political refugees from your own country. This feels bad, but it's a good thing that he's doing.
Yeah. Great state of New Jersey. Good bagels, good pizza. Good laws. Good governor.
Just, you have to accept that people from the surrounding states will make fun of you, but I think it's worth it if it means being safe.
Yeah. Cory Booker, you can make fun of any time of day for me.
Where are things?
They're campaigns emailing me. It's getting annoying.
Yeah. I think that's it for this discussion. I've quite enjoyed talking about this book.
Me too.
And we'll probably towards the end of July now with another banned book.
Yep. Thank you for joining us.
Yep. Bye, friends. I'm gonna hit the button.